is. I'm listening.
Greetings.
The highway leading to C-12 Nashville is blocked by an anomalous storm, and you're forced to detour over a mountain pass. Soon, the radiator boils over, and you have to stop. Clara lifts up the hood and thoroughly examines the steaming radiator.
The engine's boiling, so we'll have to wait. You do know what happens when a car boils, right?
The Blue shuts her mouth abruptly and stares anxiously at the dark funnel cloud dancing on the horizon. Now that you're on higher ground, it's clear that the storm has overtaken a fairly large section of road. It will be difficult to pass. The Blue looks at the engine again.
We wait. As soon as it cools down, we'll go. This storm worries me more, but it's not an insurmountable problem. I heard there are some relics at the local gas station that protect against anomalies. You could even accidentally step on one out here, they say. Mysterious are the ways of the Lord.
Your companion perks up a bit. She seems to be interested in this subject.
This place is registered as a resource anomaly zone. Do you know what that is? It's when the relics mined there have been studied and deemed useful.
The Blue looks at the storm once more.
There've been more and more of these lately, and they're getting stronger. I personally think it's divine judgment for how we've squandered the riches under the dome.
She sighs and squirms.
I knew people who got caught in one of those storms. They blow up so fast, there's no chance to get away. God rest their souls.
The Blue makes the sign of the cross. Morgan thinks for a moment.
It's a combination cafe gas station called Roadside Picnic. Never been there myself, but there's something off about it. There are several anomalies around there and weird relics. Supposedly, machines and structures decay much faster than they should in that area. But maybe that's just a story.
Oh, good day. Hello there.
Why are you bugging me?
Howdy.
Howdy. Have a...
Hiya. Have a good one.
Hiya. Bye-bye.
Clara briefly looks up from poking around the engine.
So, how's the situation? Sure you don't want some nuts? Water, maybe. I have some here.
The Blue unscrews a nozzle from under the block, examines it, then screws it back in place.
Huh? The mission? I missed that part. Sorry. Kingsley told me to take you to your group. They've lost connection with them. You don't know anything about that, do you?
The woman distracts herself from the repairs for a moment.
It was what they call a divine providence. I wasn't content with my life. Felt like he was putting my faith to the test. I was angry with him and wished he would send me a miracle.
She stares past you into the distance, her face radiant.
One day, I suddenly realized the Lord had already shown me a real miracle. My false pride made me think the miracle should be for my eyes only, but it was for everyone to witness. Do you understand?
Clara fixes her gaze on you.
You see? Yes, you do. We are all witnesses to a great miracle. The Lord has given us all this to let us know He is near, watching us.
She falls silent, but can barely contain her excitement. You see doubt in Blue's eyes.
I don't know,
Clara looks hesitant.
but we're on a mission.
She wipes her hands with a rag draped over the truck fender.
All right, but not for long. We'll do it in half an hour, right?
Clara briefly looks up from poking around the engine.
So, how's the situation? Sure you don't want some nuts? Water, maybe. I have some here.
A vague smile appears on the Blue's face.
Really? That's good news. We could have been stuck in here for a long time. Radio's still not working.
Clara slides off the truck's caterpillar track, letting you get to the motor compartment. As you approach Nashville, the realization hits you that something is definitely wrong. The boom at the security checkpoint is up, and the turret indicators are glowing red. Black smoke rises over the parking lot. The automatic guns beep and direct their gun barrels at your vehicle. You and Morgan exchange concerned looks. Clara floors it. The engine roars as the tractor truck speeds past the turrets and leaves the danger zone. The road turns left, and you're on the main road leading to the complex. There are bodies everywhere, but no visible survivors. Morgan crosses herself and whispers a prayer. Through the smoke-filled air, you see the red lights of a new batch of turrets taking aim at your vehicle. Clara swings the vehicle into a short, controlled skid. positioning it to shield you as you exit. As the turrets swivel to catch up to your truck, the two of you are already on the ground, outside the kill zone. Sitting beside the truck track, you lift your head to see Nashville ablaze. Black smoke billowing overhead and intertwining with the maelstrom above the station. It whirls slowly and majestically, hundreds of tiny green lightning bolts flashing silently in the epicenter. Clara lifts her eyes to the sky, mesmerized by the whirlpool of clouds.
We need to scout the surroundings.
You nod in agreement. Morgan is right. It's time you figured out what happened here.
Oh, good day.
Nashville's main elevator doors open with a drawn-out screech. A harsh smell comes from the dim, dirty compartment. The smell reminds you of a quartz lamp. As you step onto the elevator platform, you notice a woman in silver wing uniform. She's standing in the corner facing the wall, head down. The stranger ignores your question. You examine the chevron on her jacket sleeve. Apparently, she's one of those responsible for the Nashville site excavation. Your eyes are drawn to her hands where dozens of tiny lights are moving under her skin with a faint twinkle. The stranger makes no reaction, even as you grab her shoulder and turn her around. She looks weird. Her face is completely slack, as though she were under the influence of a powerful anesthetic. Her eyes are wide open, though. Bright white rings glow around her irises. There's a thud. Something heavy falls down behind your back, making the platform shudder. You reflexively jump aside, just in time. A body lands where you were standing a moment ago with an unpleasant crunch. And then another one, right next to it. People begin to fall onto the elevator platform from the darkness of the shaft above. The elevator platform is shaking. A speaker on the wall comes alive. Caution, overload. Please vacate the platform. Caution, overload. Please The strained overhead cable snaps with a blaring twang. You fail to leap from the platform in time. It plummets, whatever remains of its emergency braking mechanism screeching unbearably. You scream as loudly as you can as you plummet to your doom. The elevator car comes to a sudden halt as it crashes into something soft with a loud splash. Faint emergency lights illuminate a heap of torn limbs and crushed torsos smeared on the floor. The smell of blood is thick in the air. You stagger to your feet. The elevator door opens onto a dark corridor. You have arrived at your destination. Welcome to Nashville. The white noise on the screen is replaced with pulsating blackness and a remote echoing beep. Connection established. In a few seconds, Kingsley's face appears on the screen. The Silver adjusts his glasses.
Come in. C-12 Nashville. Kingsley speak. Oh, that's you. Good to see you.
Kingsley clicks his retractable pen and shifts closer to the camera.
Report.
The chief officer listens to the casualty report without interrupting. He's visibly shaken. Once you finish speaking, Kingsley gets lost in thought, biting the end of his pen.
If there's anything else I need to know, you may add it to your report.
He finally starts speaking, his voice soft and emotionless. Kingsley seems to perk up a little when he hears of the maelstrom.
Did you examine it? Was it moving? Actually, never mind. Anything else?
The Silver jots something down on a sheet of paper.
So they're no longer a danger for the rescue group. Very good.
You describe recent events. Martin convulsively jots everything down in his notepad. The Silver wipes his forehead with a silk handkerchief, fidgeting.
Good grief. Is there anything else?
Director Kingsley flips a page in his notepad, nervously tapping his pen on the desk.
Duly noted. Well then, the news is unsettling. But what about the crew? Have you found them? If it's not an issue, could you update me on each member of your group?
The Silver jots something down.
I don't doubt for a second that Ronald is doing exactly that. Man's a true professional.
The director makes a note in the documents.
Thank heavens. The crew remains partially functional and capable of performing the tasks at hand.
The chief officer puts his pen on the desk and sits back in his chair, his gaze empty and detached.
I'm sorry to hear that. Do continue.
He struggles to reply. Kingsley presses his palms against his temples.
I beg you, don't put yourself at risk unless the situation absolutely calls for it. We can't afford any more casualties.
The Silver makes a mark in the notepad. From the motion of his pen, it must be a question mark.
Is there anything else you'd like to report?
Once your report is over, Director Kingsley becomes lost in thought.
First of all, I need to apologize. On behalf of the corporation and myself. Forgive me. I shouldn't have sent a new employee on this task.
His voice sounds oddly dull. Martin wipes his glasses with a red handkerchief.
Your report seems to suggest we're facing something incredibly dangerous. I always tend to follow my instructions to the letter. In this case, the instructions say you should stay where you are and wait for rescue. But sadly, I know what we're dealing with.
Kingsley puts his glasses on and looks at the screen.
I'm sorry I couldn't give all the details. Nashville is a high-security facility. But I guess that's not important anymore. A certain relic resulted in what you are witnessing right now. In the last couple of days, we've been receiving reports of staff suffering a rapidly deteriorating mental state. And now everything's culminated in this.
The Silver sighs raggedly.
Take action. Go down to the excavation area and find this relic. Bury it, disarm it, destroy it. Do whatever you think appropriate. I'll send a rescue team right after we're done here. But regardless, act. Do not hesitate, and good luck to you.
The broadcast is interrupted. The screen is filled with black and white ripples.
Don't be shy.
Attention, attention. Please handle relics carefully. In case of damage, your life will be forfeit. Our honest work will make the world a better place. World a better place.
Come on, don't be shy.
This amber orange ball, hovering above the scientific equipment connected to it, seems to be the reason for what happened in Nashville. You can feel the waves of anomalous radiation emanating from it with your whole body. A pleasant tingling rolls through your skin, and each wave fills your head for a mere moment with strange, rapidly fading images. Without taking your eyes off the sphere, you move closer. You aim your scanner at the artifact's glowing surface, but the device will not function. Only a sine curve is quivering spasmodically on the monochrome screen. You suddenly begin to feel numb. The prickling in your hands and the anomalous radiation pressing against your head grow weaker, but a frightening sensation rises in their stead. An unknown force detaches you from your body and takes you up into the cool, ringing silence. The maelstrom hanging above Nashville embraces you. All of your consciousness unfolds like a giant canvas, hurling you into a dark auditorium. You see the maelstrom swirling over Nashville. Pulling you from the crumbling walls at the base, it lifts your mind above the world. It covers the lands of the dome like a gigantic spot, in the swirling shadow of which the lights of human consciousness flicker. Some of them fade away, barely in contact with the maelstrom. Others grow dimmer and blink painfully. Some glow with a strange, cold light. Gaining strength, the maelstrom, rushing westward, comes crashing down onto the southern lands of the dome, leaving behind hundreds of fluttering and slowly fading lights. After sweeping out Concord and Spire Station, the maelstrom finally calms down. It hangs in the very center of the dome, like a majestic, lazily swirling vortex, and your mind rushes about within it like a shining spark. It takes you some time to realize that you're wandering through a fog. Eventually, the dull, white nothingness begins to dissipate, slowly returning you to reality. A noise fills your ears, a rumble resembling the sound of waves rolling ashore. You step carefully through the white haze. Fragile bits of rock crackle under your feet. Vague shadows appear from the mist over your head. Breached concrete plate bristling with exposed armature. The dusty drill of an earth mover lying on its side. Yellowed documents, boxes. Crushed steel closets that tumbled down through gaps in the floor. The space beneath your feet resembles thick but perfectly transparent ice. A vortex of clouds spins slowly below, the lights still flickering. They're the same lights you saw when you first touched the sphere. The lights are actively moving, wandering, gathering. Iridescent, they form both small and large groups, and the desert far below changes, following their pattern. Settlements appear in the north, in the east, in the west, and even in the dull yellow barrens of the south. They grow right before your eyes, as if time were moving ahead at incredible speed. There's no doubt. The funny, scruffy old man standing before you is Aaron Melville, the old man from the gas station. He also recognizes you. A smile wrinkles his already wrinkled face.
Ah,
It's you. Long time no see, sweetheart.
Melville examines you closely.
Safe and sound, I see. How'd you pull that off? No one survived where you were heading. The only worst place is the center of the dome, where the spire... well, you know.
The old man points vaguely upwards with his crooked finger.
You're aware, aren't you? The spire is fallen. Now the road's closed. As if folks would want to come here anyway. And here we stay, like crabs in a barrel.
He thumps his timber leg on the ground, driving the mist away.
Don't think that I'm complaining. My business is on a roll. They come and they go.
Melville's face seems to petrify. He speaks slowly, but flounders anyway.
The gas station can be crowded nowadays. Everybody needs my gas station. Oh, folks went crazy, I tell you. Fighting over nothing.
The old man woefully shakes his head. Clara is surrounded with white light and mist, her hands clasped in prayer. She reminds you of an angel statue from some reformist church. Seeing you, her expression changes. She crosses herself, mumbling under her breath. She nods timidly.
Yes, I see. This, both you and this mist, it's all in my head.
Clara never moves her gaze off you.
I remember you saying, find the car and drive away. If I knew you were sacrificing yourself, I would have stayed. If someone frees you from your oath out of generosity or humanity, does that mean the oath shouldn't be fulfilled? I still don't know the answer to it.
You see sorrow and grief in her eyes.
I only know that I'm an awful wrongdoer. I hope you're... in heaven now?
Clara sighs heavily.
I see. Why are you appearing to me? Is this some sort of a sign? Do you know about signs? This is when...
Her voice suddenly becomes deep and thick. She drawls as if her words were being played from a corrupted tape. Clara's face alters subtly, as if it had turned to stone.
Abbott is very kind to me, but his faith is nothing I could get used to.
She says in a dull voice.
Salutations. Hi there.
A dazzling supernova-like flash sweeps across your view. The lights, frozen in the desert, start to move, and a cloudy funnel begins to slowly trail after them. The funnel spreads out under your feet. Flickering waves of lights drift northward, driven by the winds of a maelstrom. Not just a maelstrom. Maelstrom. Its shadow covers the west and south of the dome, as if it was extinguishing the lights scattered across the desert. Van Olden looks the same as he did during your first meeting. The same shiny glasses with thin rims, an arrogant expression, and a stopwatch clutched in his hands. He's examining a shred of mist hanging in the air. He's so involved in his research that he doesn't notice you at first. Meeting your eyes, the scientist instantly darts back. Then he comes up to you and begins to palpate your face, hands, and clothes. His fingers seem to sink in your face. Sebastian Van Olden screws up his lips scornfully.
Yes, of course.
A thought form, like the pink mist, I suppose, or any other similar anomaly. As was to be expected.
For a split second, the scornful grimace leaves the scientist's face.
I actually agree with you. The megala anomaly of Nashville turned out to be much more dangerous, and the consequences of its appearance disastrous. On the other hand, everything that happened gives us the most plentiful research material. If Russo didn't hamper me, we would have learnt Maelstrom's nature a long time ago.
He runs his hand over the mist, curling around. The scientist loses all interest in you, steps aside, and continues to study the mist. A gray-haired man, arms stiff at his sides, stands squinting short-sightedly into the mist. Kingsley is much shorter in person, and older. He notices you.
I never thought we'd meet again. I must thank you. Thanks to your report, I was able to start the evacuation in time.
Martin comes closer. You notice small changes in his uniform. Some of the insignia have been replaced by larger patches resembling military chevrons. Kingsley nods as if anticipating your question.
Yes, the uniform is new, but the man is the same. Head of Magellan Base. I intended to resign after the incident, but Nakamura decided otherwise. I couldn't argue with her.
He surveys the thick mist around you.
One thing's certain. You're standing here. That means you're alive. Yes, I know what this is, partly.
He looks you in the eye and says,
Scientists on the emulator project have been telling us a lot about it. Not everything, of course. Even they don't know what it is.